So Angus, thanks for sitting with us today. We really appreciate your time. I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about the kinds of problems that Cornwall County Council were trying to solve in looking at products in this domain.
We found primarily when GCSX came in, there was a greater awareness about data handling, and we were then able to offer people a secure means of getting information to other local authorities, central government, police, health. But obviously all those organisations needed to be connected onto GSI, GCSX. My single most frequent line of inquiry then started to come as to, we have a sensitive piece of information or a contract or something with data protection implications. We need to get it to a school, a third sector organisation, a private company. How do we get it to them securely? And we had a number of things in place which were all largely fairly clunky, largely technical, which involved IS getting involved and having to either guide the user through it or do it completely on their behalf, which users who are intelligent people don't like. They don't like that feeling of losing control and having to get someone to come in and hold their hands for them. And the solutions weren't perfect. At the other end as well, we would maybe use a product to encrypt something and then send it via email, and then the receiving party didn't have the same version of the product and it would have to go again. Or we had bulk upload transfer solutions which weren't suitable, which were only technical staff could manage them. So we identified that we had a requirement there, and it was a huge push from the business. So this wasn't a IS problem that we're saying it would be good if we could make our data transfer more secure. This was the business knocking on my door daily saying, we need to get this from A to B, how do we do it?
So that's very interesting. In terms of the experience you had of working with the product, what kinds of things would you relate to us about that experience?
Cryptshare came to our attention, and it was initially not the first choice. We looked at a number of similar solutions, some of which were prohibitively expensive, some of which weren't, but were still fairly technical solutions. It looked like a nice, neat interface that we could imagine people who were capable of using email would be capable of using this. Company got involved, were very, very helpful and cooperative in giving us a virtual appliance as a trial for on a month's basis initially. We got it up and going with very little fuss. I think it's about an hour, 2 hours of an engineer's time to configure the IP address ranges and what have you. It was there working in our DMZ, and we cherry-picked a number of the people which I've previously spoken about who are coming to these inquiries and saying, we've now got something, you can go ahead, you can use it, don't put the crown jewels into it, use it purely as a test basis and give us some feedback in 3 weeks' time. Word spread, even on that cherry-picked list of people, we were about 10 or 12 people. Pretty much soon I had people coming up saying, well, we've heard there's this new solution, can we use it as well? And we were mandating all the time, this is a pilot, we may not have this in 3 weeks' time. Please, again, use it. Don't send anything too sensitive, but use it, tell us what you think. The trial chugged on, and then it timed out, and then we asked for another extension, which we were very generously given. We opened up the user base further, and we were told that we had to do a more formal exercise in the feedback collection and get strategy managers involved with the customers and engage with this properly. So we did a more mature trial, again, very successfully. The only complaints we had were from people who completely misconstrued what it was, that they wanted something to do batch transfers from a specific system or very niche needs. But the majority of feedback we had was, it's great, it's so easy to use, and the people I've sent it to are really appreciative because now we can get something to them. The main problem came when we disbanded the trial, and we did actually have some complaints of that IS finally gave us some tools we could use, and now you're taking it away from us. What are you going to do about it? On the basis of the feedback, though, and on the basis of we had a very genuine requirement here, the funding was found, we put it in and haven't really looked back since.
I'm very interested in the the kinds of issues you solved, but which of these issues in particular would you pick out to recommend to others in their use of Cryptshare?
We like the fact that it's configurable. We've branded it to look part of our corporate intranet and websites. We only allow people to use it under specific terms and conditions we put around it.
Mm-hmm.
For example, because it doesn't have the common criteria, we've said that it's suitable for IL2, not above. However, at the discretion of the data owner, and if there's no other means and a risk acceptance is made, we'd still rather that was used than an unsecure means, obviously. So the terms and conditions are generally standard stuff about people mustn't use it to upload inappropriate content, obviously, use it for non-council business purposes. But other than that, trying to push it as an easy, friendly solution, which it's been generally adopted as. We've also, say, taken the approach of whitelisting who we allow to send back in to mitigate the risk that it could be socially engineered, and because obviously the user base, we've given them absolutely no training. One of the questions we initially had on the pilot was, how can you do a pilot without training the users? We said we didn't need to. We gave them the product, nice big buttons, they click through, they're not silly people, they managed to use it without any intervention from ourselves, which has been a huge cost saving in itself. But say on that basis, we took the approach that we would whitelist who we allow to send back into us. So organisations we deal with regularly that we know and trust, we can whitelist their whole domain. Other people more tentatively, we might whitelist a specific address to come in on a temporary basis while we're doing business with them. Then while we're not doing business with them, we take that away to remove that risk. But depending on the organisation, I can see the benefit of the buttons you described earlier for sort of citizen access to specific drop boxes and what have you. We haven't ventured down the Outlook plugin route yet, even though we've had user interest in doing so. Partly at the moment I do like the separate mindset in that people are using it specifically for the purpose of secure transfer, and that has been our main emphasis. It has had the knock-on effect of offloading large files from our Exchange system as well, but we saw that as a kind of fringe benefit rather than the main reason, but that's certainly been helpful as well. The fact that it automatically purges, so information that's uploaded to it, we don't have to think about data protection and implications of it sitting there year in, year out. We set our limit to 7 days and it's gone. That's been contentious with some people, and when we've challenged it, again, it's a misconstruement. They're trying to use it as a storage device. That's not why we bought it. We bought it to transfer data. And if it's confidential information, surely you're going to want to know that somebody's picked it up within 7 days, and if they haven't done, then we're better off, scrubbing it all together. The auditability of it is excellent. I love the fact, particularly with some of the things I send, that I know when somebody's picked it up. I get the information that comes back to me, tells me exactly when and where, and obviously if I want to go drill into it with an IP address and what have you as well. So an element of non-repudiation there, which is always beneficial if you're concerned about the endpoints of where it's going. I mean, some of the more sophisticated solutions we looked at had complete end-to-end digital rights management.
Yeah.
But that's a whole complex level of complexity we don't want to get into, that trying to manage the information that's left your authority is going to be a big challenge.
Yeah.
We take it on the basis that we trust the endpoint where it's going to. What we're concerned about is keeping it secure till it's got to the endpoint, and Cryptshare works perfectly for that.
That's very interesting. I wonder if you could talk to us briefly also about the way in which you might introduce Cryptshare, or what factors about Cryptshare you would see as being significant to recommend to other users.
I think its strongest point is its simplicity. The fact that, say, anybody who can use Hotmail, Gmail and stick an attachment on it can use this. So you have a very intuitive interface that you can just point people towards, and vice versa at the other end. There's no complications in terms of will the person receiving it actually be able to open it in time? Particularly, a lot of things that go out are time critical, and people don't want a lot of fuss and song and dance about how it gets there. They want to get there quickly, and for that reason alone, its success has worked. I think if it had been more complicated to use, we wouldn't have had the success with it that we have done.
So Angus, thanks very much for the input. It's been very, very interesting for me, and thank you for your time today.